Lawson, the director of the Corporate Institute at Points of Light. We're delighted to have you with us today for a Google Hangout with Crystal Barnes, Vice President of CSR for Nielsen. So I'm going to look forward to hearing what Crystal has to say and how Nielsen has understood big data and made huge strides with their partner in the global UN food program.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Crystal, hi, how are you? So I think it might be really helpful for our audience to start to just understand the topic a little bit and then really drill in on how Nielsen's used its number crunching expertise to help in the social sector.
Yeah, sure. So at Nielsen, a large part of our philanthropy strategy is really centered on our commitment to kind of mobilizing the data that we have for quote unquote social good. So as you know, Jenny, for us as a company, we pledge $10 million a year towards our pro bono and skills-based volunteering commitment through 1 Billion Plus Change. And for us, you know, that's in areas of hunger and nutrition, education, diversity and inclusion, and technology. And so to your point, when you look at some of our signature programs, they're really anchored in our data. They're anchored in our products, and they're anchored in our insights. And so when you think about Nielsen as a whole, as a company, we measure and monitor what consumers do in over 100 countries, right? And that's something that is clearly beneficial for our traditional clients, but it's also something that we could leverage and use for nonprofits in a very interesting and strategic way for them to create long-lasting results.
Great, great. So clearly that explains a little bit on why this makes sense for Nielsen, right? You're using those skills and that really are at the heart of your company and represent the very best parts of your brand. Would love for you to talk a little bit about some of the big data projects you've been involved with, in particular the one with the UN World Food Program.
Yeah, so one of my favorites, I'm not gonna lie there, we recently engaged in a year-long project with the World Food Program to help them to modernize their mobile data collection. And so for them, essentially what that meant was helping them to move from a solely in-person interviewing process, which they had, to really incorporating remote mobile data technology into their toolkit. So for organizations, you can imagine, data is critical to what they do, right, on a day-to-day basis. And ongoing relief and support efforts are anchored in their ability to use and apply data. So there are many times with organizations like the World Food Program where in-person, face-to-face interviews are limited for whatever reason, for some sort of conflict, for disease reasons, for other risks, most recently the Ebola crisis that just happened, right? And so having an innovative approach to their data collection is really critical for them during these times. And we were really pleased to be able to help them in that capacity to support the relief efforts. Nielsen obviously knows a lot about mobile technology and data collection. And so to be able to apply that insight and expertise that we use for many of our traditional clients to a cause so near and dear to the World Food Program and to us as well was Asia. Yes, so we had about 9 total Nielsen core team volunteers. And what we love about this project is one of our senior leaders within the organization came to our Nielsen Cares team and said, you know what, I have some skills that I want some of my associates to be able to sharpen. And I want them to be able to do it in a very kind of uncommon way. And so we, through our long-standing relationship with the World Food Program, identified an opportunity to marry the need from a Nielsen perspective with the need from a World Food Program perspective. So we had 9 volunteers. And then on the WFP side, we had 20 WFP specialists in the vulnerability analysis and mapping area of their organization. And combined, those 2 teams worked with 10 countries where WFP is now using their remote mobile data collection based on the work that we were able to do through the pro bono opportunity. 1,000 questionnaires implemented per month in the process. And the best part for me and really our teams is the ROI piece of it, right? So the results section. So one of the one of the aspects that we're very proud of is that they had a 50% cost savings for the World Food Program in going through this process. And then from a time savings perspective, they had an 83% time savings on survey turnaround. And so, you know, from an internal perspective, our projects like the one that we worked with World Food Program on are really anchored in skill development, as I mentioned. It's an opportunity for our associates to sharpen skills that they already have, to create new skill sets and understand areas where, you know, they can potentially shine in with a nonprofit that, you know, they're very passionate about, and the impact that they're able to have through this sort of talent development process is very personal for them, and in turn allows them to pour their passions and marry them with their skill set in order to deliver results.
That's fantastic. What an amazing impact that you can turn to. You know, I think that this may not be on our plan, but I would love to hear from you on what do you think was the sort of secret sauce to the success of the relationship with UN Food? What were those elements from your side and from their side that made a partnership around data really sing in this case?
Yeah, so the easy answer is flexibility. With these types of projects, you know, you spend a great deal of time upfront scoping what the project is going to consist of. And so while we may have started in one direction when we first started the program and started to think about, you know, where the need was on the WP side and where the resource was on the Nielsen side, that evolved. You know, over the course of the year, unforeseen occurrences happen, like the Ebola crisis, where we have to react in real time. You know, and so being able to be flexible around how the project is developing and evolving is very key on the Nielsen side, but then also on the WFP side. It makes it more exciting as a project, and it really brings some challenges to bear that both sides of the house were up to tackling.
An opportunity to talk a little bit about you know, how the timeline evolved.
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, the first piece of it was identifying what WFP's needs were. As you can imagine, when you come to the table, that list can be long, right? And so we needed to figure out, how do we take a opportunity to have such a great collaboration with an organization and break it down into biteable chunks. And so the first step was narrowing it down to mobilizing remote data collection as a core WFP need. And then making sure also that, again, we were flexible with our data and our data collection and the opportunities that that provided. And then making sure that we were responding very efficiently and effectively, both to WFP as they flex around their needs, and then also internally to our resources, because you do have to juggle pro bono opportunities with your day-to-day traditional job. And so being able to ensure that we had the right leadership team and associates on board who were able to dedicate the time and expertise to the project was very core and key for us. From a Nielsen expertise perspective, again, we knew that implementing mobile data collection was something that we definitely had the in-house expertise to do. We knew that deploying a measurement, science, methodology, and analysis around the data that we were collecting was something that we were able to do, and a framework that we will be able to hand off to WFP to make our relationship a sustainable one. And then we knew, because we are, you know, in over 100 countries, that we had the in-country expertise to be able to support that. And so, again, marrying the needs with Nielsen's expertise, and then, you know, the outcome being the 50% cost savings and the 83% time savings, was something that we were very proud of as an organization. But more importantly, it's something that you know, will help WFP today, but then also tomorrow.
Absolutely. It's such an interesting project, and using so many levels of Nielsen skills. How are you all thinking about measuring, understanding the sort of skill and leadership development impacts that this project had for your team?
Yeah, so one of the things that we did this year, and particularly as it relates to this project, is we have a post-project survey that we administer not only to the associates who participate in the project, but also a survey that we administer to the organization as well to ensure that we met their expectations, to ensure that the outcomes and the impact is something that they will be able to sustain, and see if there are any other areas of expertise that they would like us to bring to bear for the existing or future projects. And so just making sure that we kind of get that 360-degree feedback from our associates and also from the nonprofit is very important and key for us.
I think I have just a few more questions. One of them is, you know, we are so delighted to have Nielsen be a part of our big data workshop at our upcoming conference on volunteering and service in Houston, October 19 through 21. Would love to know, you know, why you think people should attend that big data workshop.
Having the opportunity to hear from other organizations who are leveraging their expertise and their skill set, but then also tapping into the data that they have to help nonprofits in a very uncommon way, I think it's something to desire, right? And it's a fascinating trend to me in our industry, and it's only going to evolve further and further. And so to be at the forefront of where you know, the industry is moving as it relates to big data and social good is really an exciting place to be.
Well, we're glad you're there, and we're glad you're joining us in Houston for the conference, and very much appreciate your time today. So Crystal, thanks for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you and seeing everyone at the Points of Light Conference on Volunteering and Service. And for more information, you can go to www.volunteeringandservice.org to sign up for the conference and to see Crystal live and for us to continue the conversation. Thanks for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
Thanks for having me.